Fuck. Every time that you come down, it's like I take something away from it that either I've forgotten about or like just, I never knew before. Right? And then just...
And nothing's perfect either, right? So there's some criticism on, some constructive criticism maybe. I know that with Andrew, who we just trained, maybe some weight was a bit too heavy, right, towards the end.
For him?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But,
like, we're still learning the machines, right? Which is the cool part about it. Everyone's different, right? And then, like, you start, like, figuring out, like, almost, like, how hard the sets, like, leading up to that set need to be to get the most out of the last one.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right? Like, you're always chasing the perfect set sequence.
What I find, too, is when you're training someone who isn't your client, you don't know their previous injuries, their previous goals, what their pain tolerance is. So, really, my mission and what I hope to accomplish is just to shock them, right? Just to make them learn and give me a chance to sharpen a tool, right?
Yeah.
Slow things down, go over more of the precise stuff. Because you can get complacent with just handing someone the 30-pound dumbbell to do a sumo squat and then forget those small, minute angles of your ankle joint, your knee joint, your hip joint, why you're doing the movement, not just doing it for no reason,
Yeah, and I think, like, getting more specific on it, like, I'm typically with my clients do the traditional sumo squat, which you're upright, get your feet out wide, heels in, toes out.
Yeah.
Might do some zoning, might just do regular reps, but the way you manipulated it for the glutes, just slightly leaning forward. Obviously the client's got to be somewhat advanced for the lower back to handle it, but just changing that angle changes the whole exercise.
Yeah.
And Tat and Andrew, who you trained, you could tell they were both feeling it, and it was just something, it was novel for them.
Well, maybe depending on your editing abilities, it'd be nice if you can edit some of this audio of us talking about specific sets, because that'd be a good way to kind of channel this conversation right now. We can talk about that, because what I would add to that is that because of the order how we got to that sumo squat, right? Insert image of them doing that sumo squat. Someone looking at it would probably critique it, saying it's unsafe or not correct, right? But we had pre-fatigued the hamstring in the shortened position. We had pre-fatigued abduction with Andrew in particular.
Yeah.
Right? So that when he goes to do it, his glutes are so fired up that the weight, 50 pounds, feels like 500 pounds to him, right?
Totally.
If we started that session off, I would need him to hold 100 pounds, and then his lower back integrity is going to be compromised, right?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, it makes sense. It's interesting. Yeah, and like that full body set you did with Tat, like starting with the legs and then going into the pullover static hold, right into the row, right, and then at that point it was into the chest, then back to the legs, then it was the shoulder. Last set for legs was the squat, and then you finished her with the pull-ups. Like, it was intense.
And with her, she's gonna work no matter what anyway. But I know that we spoke before. She has implants, so she can't do normal presses. She can't do dips, or it's uncomfortable because there's tightness on her skin and stuff, right?
You gotta work around it.
Gotta change the workout. And females don't need to overdevelop their pressing abilities, right? I mean, so I think she'll be the right kind of sore, and maybe do that routine with some of her more advanced clients. But it's that, I think, incorporating some unilateral stuff in her leg day, combined with some posture things, is going to keep her heart rate up the whole workout too. And that's something that if she's in the hot seat feeling, that's what people are really paying for too, is that you're promoting aerobic and anaerobic, right? So you got to make sure that you're kind of getting both those buttons pushed.
So we do advertise it as like a one-stop shop for everything, time efficiency, right? Yeah, no, for sure. You could see it. You could see that she was challenged the whole time from set 1 to the pull-ups at the end.
Yeah, and I think she got 9 or 10 sets, maybe.
Total.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, and that workout maybe won't work out for everybody because it's pretty advanced, but you could also ease your way up to that, but cardio first, just for the intent of increasing your body temperature. I think I'm always going to push for, right?
Yeah.
Like her first 4 reps, because it's her, it's safe, but it could be unsafe, right? Those unilateral hamstring curls, if you have a cold hamstring, there's a chance of pulling something if you're going to change directions quickly. So I'm also a big advocate of warming up properly, right? So
yeah, you just have your clients come in and like warm up on the bike, or
whoever's able to. A lot of people,
they just show up a minute late.
Yeah, a minute late,
and then it's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
So
and those are the people who they want the best results with the smallest amount of effort forward. So it's kind of like that balancing act of trying to be there for them in positive, but at the same time being strict enough that, like, man, if you want the result, you want the goals, like, to accomplish those goals, 20 minutes early, like, a half an hour workout should take an hour.
Totally.
Because you want to warm up. You got to, like, not stretch, but warm up, right?
And if we're applying the session properly, there is like a 10-minute cool down period.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're trying to gather yourself.
Yeah, if you can reach the soap dispenser or whatever.
Yeah, I guess what we'll do is when we talk about the sets, we can use the audio and just splice it over the video.
Yeah.
If we decide to, right? But I guess we could talk a little bit about, like, just sort of the whole philosophy of the high intensity training and kind of how it's sort of not as popular now, right? And how it really had its peak with, like, the Nautilus, and, you know, how there's still people like us, you know, driving it forward and turning it into, like, a business, right? So aside from, like, obviously being effective, like, what do you find, like, the benefits of it? Like, obviously you're going to build muscle and burn fat, and we all know that cardio, we should now all know, anybody watching this, that cardio is not an efficient means to change your body by itself, right? So do you notice anything with your clients that they're getting besides just, like, cardio and muscle?
I think it's that hormetic stress benefit, right, that we talked about before. It's not so much, I mean, muscle mass is great, but there's a pivoting point where you're going to plateau and or not find that benefit useful as a sales pitch anymore. Like, if I'm training a 55-year-old woman who's just trying to get in shape, me pitching her on muscle mass isn't always going to be optimal.
No.
But that hormetic stress, if you can explain what that's going to do, right? If you can get in the hot seat once, even twice a week, where you're getting as close to 10 out of 10, if you, like, when you can tough this stuff out, everything else is going to be easier.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a big benefit that I find, is you can get their mental toughness up.
Totally.
Because again, a big bicep or a strong tricep may not be everyone's ideal
goal
situation, but if you explain, like, life has ups and downs, but the more you hit those downs on purpose, the easier the unexpected downs will be, right?
Yeah, I noticed a huge shift in people from their first session. Like, they might say, oh, that leg press was a 10 out of 10, right? But then by 2 weeks in, now it's only a 7.
That's right.
Right? They're starting to get accustomed to the intensity, and it does build them mentally, right?
Yeah.
I notice a lot of, like, business people who are driven, like, they'll hang in there for those hard sets, right? Whereas somebody who, you know, doesn't have maybe such a competitive lifestyle, you know, it takes them a little while longer to get used to it, but they all seem to make that jump at some point.
Yeah, and I to not always be, I don't like always being confrontational, because there's a lot of things going on that I don't agree with on a lot of factors, and exercise is one of them that I bump into a lot, and I don't want to be constantly confrontational. So I agree with people a lot, saying you can work out 5-6 times a week and you'll probably look the same. You make similar progress, but you're not going to get that mental fortitude that you will from high intensity. The injury the potential for injury is significantly higher training that frequently. And I have a daughter, I have grandparents, I have a significant other, I have chores to do. I can't commit 12 hours a week. It's the time that is a huge one for everybody, because if you look the same at the end of a year, even let's say argument's sake you do look the same, I would argue that you won't look the same,
right?
Because you'll end up having injuries and or not getting
progressing.
Enough, you won't get enough stimulus to make any change,
right? So
let's say, for argument's sake, you did look the exact same. That's another benefit. It's the time, is that you can't get that back. Like, we've all had, again, bad things happen to us, and myself included, is that when you realize that you could have spent more time with somebody, but you were spending all that time in the gym, or you could have been reading and learning more, or like Steve would always say, like, you'll burn more calories and benefit more sitting up properly and reading than you will doing cardio for an hour, like people think they need to do.
Right.
So it's time allotted to other important stuff that is a big pitch for people.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. Time is the big one. Like, you know, as a business, like, we get a lot of busy people, right? Like you said, you have kids, you have work. Yeah. Right. Yeah. When are you going to fit this in? So the whole half-hour high-intensity training, like, as a business, makes sense. Yeah. Right. Guys like Doug McGuff, Body by Science, people that we follow. Yeah. Right. I think everybody should read that book, by the way. Yeah. It'll change the way you look at exercise. It'll change your life.
And it's he does a good job of making it readable for the layperson, but it's pretty scientific. Like, it goes deep, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's the other thing is, like, Andrew and I, like, we didn't come up with these principles.
No.
Like, these were around since the 70s, like Arthur Jones, Nautilus, into MedX, people like Doug McGuff, Steven, our mentor, are kind of like moving these along, right? We're just trying to apply it in a business sense to help people, right, in as little amount of time as possible. But yeah, we recommend that you guys should definitely read that book. But the whole premise is, the higher your intensity, the lower your frequency and volume, right? And it's scientifically backed that it works. If you're a mammal, and you apply it properly, and you allow enough recovery time, your body's going to change. It has no choice.
Yeah, and those he does a good job, and most practitioners of the HIT community, they do define words really strongly. So like when people think exercise is just moving, that's not true.
No.
People think intensity is just like how much weight you're moving.
Or if you're grunting.
Yeah, that's right.
Your form's breaking down, but you're still going. That's not intensity. That's stupidity.
Yeah, I had an intense workout. I worked out for 2 hours, but you were only under the weight for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Your time under tension was next to zero.
Yeah. So, but again, there are benefits to that. There's a time and a place. I would argue, so I'm not confrontational about it all. Like, if you want to get good at squats, if you want to do, like, there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
But my grandma can't do that.
Right.
My 20-year-old brother shouldn't do that. Like, no one has to be doing that to get in shape, and that's where there's a negative everyone considers exercise as dangerous because people do it dangerously, but it doesn't need to be dangerous.
No, Doug McGuff, he's preaching like that this is the safest possible way that you can exercise, right? And I think I'm going to ask you what you think your opinion is on what's the hardest selling point for this type of training, because there's a few, obviously. Other than it's just not that popular, it's not as sexy as like a CrossFit or a group class, right? I do find like there's that whole myth that people are like, oh, I feel like I'm going to get hurt, especially if it's an older female, let's say 60 or 70.
Yeah.
Right? And their bones might be a little weaker. But he preaches like with the super slow protocols, which were designed for women with osteoporosis, like this is the safest way to exercise, period, regardless of who you are, because your muscles fatigue quicker than you can hurt yourself.
Yeah. Because
your muscles are gradually getting weaker each rep, right?
Yeah.
So by the time you reach that breaking point, you're really not strong enough to hurt yourself as long as your form's not breaking down. But that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Right? Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The chances of hurting the muscle that you're targeting training this way is almost like nil, right?
Yeah.
It's when people start breaking form that they hurt something that wasn't even intended in the exercise. Like, not many people hurt their quad or their glute in a squat. It's their lower back, right? People don't often hurt their shoulder during a shoulder press. It's their neck. Like, it's stuff that wasn't supposed to be involved anyway. So as long as you stay in the strict form, you want the muscle you're targeting to fail to the point where you can't injure it because you're so weak, right? Like exactly what you said. But it's the biggest sales thing is that I find is that I could train someone at any gym with any equipment, but the fact that I'm there is the element that is different, right? So you could have a similar intensity of workout on your own, but your chances of injury is significantly higher because it's those last 2 or 3 reps that you did this, right? Or that you jumped instead of planted your feet. And it's those smaller reminders that we're guilty of. If I train alone, I'm more likely to get hurt too. So I don't avoid these rules. Like I know that if I train by myself, I'm a higher chance of getting injured. And I've never been injured with someone training me. Right. I've only been injured if I'm training me.
Right.
So
totally.
Because again, the injury prevention side of it is the biggest help to sell. But I think the initial question was, what's the hardest? What
do you find? And that's all great information. What do you find is like the hardest pitch for this type of training? Right. I personally have my own opinions, but I want to hear yours.
Okay. I would say affordability.
Yeah.
It's a big one. But if the follow-up sentence is to try to dodge that dispute, I guess, or is that if you can sit down and write someone a proper diet plan to go with it and hopefully incorporate some cheaper foods in their diet, just whole foods, just the cost of not eating out is going to hopefully help balance that cost. Right. And if they're old enough to be able to afford something like this, they probably have a car payment, so you're using that as a referral, right? That you're paying $200 bi-weekly in your car, or even $100 bi-weekly in your car, right? At the same cost, you could train
here once a week.
Yeah, even once a week is fine. Like honestly, like I have a lot of people who think like right now they're training 4 times, 5 times a week on their own.
Right.
They could wipe that clean and just do once.
Let's focus on not income. Let's pretend that like everybody could afford it.
Yeah.
Or money wasn't an option, right? How do you handle someone when you tell them you can train 1 day a week here, full body, and you can get equal if not better results than training 4 or 5 times a day following a split from your favorite bodybuilder as a natural person, right? That I find is one of my biggest things to overcome, is getting people to that understanding.
Yeah. What's hard is that exercise, like on the whole, is addictive, right?
Yeah.
So even if they started and they didn't like exercise at all, it doesn't take long for them to get addicted, and they want to increase their volume. They want to increase their frequency because it's enjoyable, right? That feeling. But it's trying to fight that back. But I know what you're saying, though. Sometimes it's not the affordability. It's just trying to break their old habits of you can do it this way and it'll be better for you in the long run.
Yeah.
I think the best way is same as any other life goal or principles I use, is that you gotta show example, right? Like you gotta, if they came into the gym before their workout and I'm training every time they come in or something, then it's gonna look like I'm not practicing what I preach. You gotta practice what you preach. Right. Like I'm guilty, you're guilty, all of us are guilty of working out alone, like we just said. Right. So I know that when I am really trying to sell somebody, I got to make sure that I'm also doing it, right? So that's how I think. Like taking your own progress pictures, doing your own body scans, and sticking to what you are selling is the best way to show people. Because then you have your own body scan in your hand, and you show, look, in 1 month I gained 3 pounds of muscle and lost 3 pounds of fat, and I only worked out for 4 hours in a month. Right. Right. That really sticks for people, and just say, like, stick with this for 30 days, and we'll do another body scan. And then if you were to extend that out, assuming some plateaus and things, assume that out for a year investment, right? If someone had a $2,500 pill that would change your body composition by that much, they would pay for it. Pill,
it'd be sold out.
It's the effort that it's required.
It'd be sold out everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. Be off the shelves. Yeah. Back ordered.
Exactly.
It's funny you mentioned the scan. So like, I had 2 female clients start with me. I won't name their names, obviously. But one's 66 years of age and one's 70. Both friends. Okay. And exact same philosophies, twice a week, full body sessions. One of them only trained with me the twice a week, full body. The other one was doing other stuff outside of the gym.
With your knowledge, or like without you knowing?
Without me knowing.
Oh, okay.
I put them on the scan. The other one's up like 4 pounds of muscle in a certain amount of time. Yeah. Let's say it's like a month or whatever, month and a half, 2 months. And the other one's actually regressing and has lost like a pound in each leg. Right? And it's just that the people don't understand that actually when you exercise like this, doing anything on top of that, putting yourself in unnecessary catabolic states, is actually counterproductive to your actual health and your goal. Yeah. Right? Which is something I deal with a lot.
It's that more is more
mentality.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of that. It's hard because like we said before, it is addictive. And there are benefits of moving. Like there are benefits, like getting fresh air, walking your dog. There's social aspect of physically moving, going for jogs, playing hockey, that kind of stuff. But just knowing that is going to contribute to the recovery resources, right? So you can do cardio if you enjoy it. Yeah. But just know that it's going to affect your goal. Has to change a little bit, or maybe take in more food, or you got to sleep more. Like it's not. This whole thing is complicated. Yeah, you can't say that it's just the training, because that's a lie too, right? You can't. Totally. Yeah. If you don't change your diet, if you don't change your sleep habits, then you're destined to fail. Even if it's starting a business, or if it's raising a kid, or exercising, everything falls apart if you don't have the proper structure of the other 6 pillars that are involved. Yeah. Right.
For me, like, it's frustrating in the sense that, like, I don't like the term personal trainer. I like to think that we have a higher standard than just we got a weekend course and now we charge people money to put them through exercises, right? So we've invested in the in-body, we've invested in good quality equipment, we invested in our training ongoing and learning, right? For me, like, I look at exercise as like a prescription for my client, right? So I'm trying to find that minimal effective dose so we can stimulate, let them recover, come back, stimulate again, and continually make progress, right? Sounds like a perfect scenario, right? Yeah. But when people don't follow it, or they miss meals, or they miss sleep, and then they do extra exercise, they feel like they didn't do enough this week, it actually makes it impossible for me to tell you what's working or not working. Yeah. Right? Which makes it very frustrating, right? Especially when you're only prescribing 1 set of each muscle once or twice a week. right? Very minimal. We should see at least some progress with that.
Yeah.
Right? And if it starts to go backwards,
it's
hard
like,
it's pretty obvious what's going on, right?
It's hard because you're dealing with adults, so they have their own, like they signed up, like you want to make sure you're not offending them, but at the same time you're asking for a result. I'm telling you the answer, and then you're not doing that answer. It is like it's kind of the ball's in your court,
right?
But at the same time, you're running a business. You have to make sure, like it's
It's
complicated. You don't want
complicated.
to, you don't want to offend anybody, but at the same time, you have to have some form of authority.
You have to have some tough conversations, right?
Yeah, like why?
Expectations.
Yeah, be honest with me. Why do you think your scan wasn't that great? And then like that must have been how you found out this girl was overtraining.
Totally.
Right? Like she
got on the scan, legs are weaker, and then legs on the scan are down by a pound of muscle. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But then they realize that usually, and then they start to buy into the program a little more. So there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Of course, yeah.
It's
no one's a lost cause.
Yeah.
No one's a lost cause.
No, for sure. But
and there are stressors that you can't
count for.
Yeah, you have no clue, right? Like
yep. Someone could be stressed out, bad sleep,
toothache, anything, like
anything.
Right?
Systemic stress.
Yeah, and COVID, like every one of our clinicians lost muscle during the lockdown because not only because you lose that stimulus, we didn't have access to the gym,
right? But
also your cortisol levels through the roof. You're not sleeping right. You're eating before bed. You're messing with your hormones, all that stuff, right?
For sure.
We haven't seen the sun in 4 months, so like that's another.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the nice weather.
Yeah, there's like 2,000 genes out of your 20,000 genes that don't turn on if you don't have enough sun. So we're running at 80% on a good day. Like, if everything else was in check, but we're not all in check. So
right. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's a great career. It's just like there's so many. The fitness industry is so diluted, right? And then experiencing it at the highest level of like professionalism, and then studying these people, and then people come in like, oh, I do CrossFit, and I do this, and I do that, and it's anything goes, like today, right? And I don't know if that's social media or just people don't want to necessarily work as hard. Like I don't think anybody goes into the gym. If we were going to Planet Fitness right now, let's say, and this isn't knocking Planet Fitness, it's just a gym in Belleville, and we were to observe people, no one is graduating naturally towards super slow 10-second reps and heavy negatives and static holds because it's hard. Right, you almost have to learn it, right? So, I think that's probably like a big thing of it. And like CrossFit and these things seem easy and fun, but they're more like sport. They're not. They're not actually exercise by its definition, right? Do you know what the definition off the top of your head?
Exercise.
I'm pretty sure it's just like a stimulus that improves your physical fitness.
Yeah, it has to improve or maintain your physical fitness. Yeah,
right.
So anything that's giving atrophy or like that's where the term fitness and health is misleading. Like your fitness and health are not
they're not the same.
Yeah, they're not the same word. So
they're
your fitness can be through the roof and your health can be
terrible
down on the floor. Yeah, a lot of marathon runners die over the finish line, right? So they're extremely fit. They're the fastest, best performance, and then they die. So they're not that healthy. So what I was going to say about social media and stuff is that also we're trying to hold ourselves to a higher standard, change our body composition, but walk the line of professionalism. So it's hard to not want to show off that this works and take a picture shirtless and post it because that also kind of steps on your own toes about showing that you're professional. But you also need to combat that woman who's doing leg day 3 days a week who's posting her ass on Instagram. You got to combat that too. Like it's easy for someone to write a cookie cutter 4 sets of 15 or 12 and then print that off 100 times, give it to 100 people, right? And especially when you have good genetics and you're posting on Instagram. So that's where I think the Instagram is hard to combat against because there's, like you said, it's diluted. There's too much stimulus, and I want to be proud enough to not have to take skimpy pictures of myself to show that it's working, but like there's that balancing act there too, right?
Totally. Yeah. Totally right. And there's just so much misinformation out there, misconceptions. Like people, like you said, with good genetics, there's genetic anomalies out there that just look better than I do, no matter what training we do. Yeah. And then there's people who use drugs, obviously, and
combination of right. Everyone on the Olympia stage looked great at 14. Like no one was like a nerd. Like no one was at the bottom of the class, bottom of the pole, and then got to the Mr. Olympia, right? They were the best at, like Phil Heath was the best basketball player in his high school. Like they were all athletic, muscular, low body fat people, right? And that's why they become so good at because you normally do what you're good at, right? Especially after you get praise for being a genetic freak, right?
So almost immediately when I get a client that's not just about health, like all this is sort of meant to improve their health to an extent. But if someone's coming in with physique goals, and that's their main thing, I almost immediately am into like managing expectation mode and explaining, like, you know, if you look at a picture of trees, like in Body by Science, right? One tree is taller, one tree is shorter, one tree is a little shaped weird. Why is this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's just the randomness and chaos of the genetic pool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why you know, I could practice free throws hours every day, but I'm never playing in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how hard I work at that.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be a reality, right?
Yeah.
You can't have legs like Tatiana, right?
Yeah.
She trains hard.
Andrew can't.
And Andrew's got good legs too.
Oh,
He's got great quads, better than me.
Yeah.
I've been training legs for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I train legs hard. It's just they just have that genetic.
She had legs. I'm sure when she came out of Vermont, like she had great legs already.
Yeah, we'll have to ask her.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Doing squats on her first birthday. But yeah. No, I like the aesthetic side of it. I always pitch as like just a happy coincidence. Like if you are healthy, you'll look good naked.
Right.
There are people who look good naked who are not healthy.
Totally.
Right. So like everyone says like, oh, I exercise to look good naked, but you can look good naked and be really unhealthy.
Right.
Where you can, most people who are really healthy look good.
Right.
It's just a benefit. It's a side effect.
Yep.
Right. Your goal isn't just to look good, but it's just a happy benefit. I think that's what my argument is for everybody. Like whether they're 18 or like 80, right?
It reminds me of a quote, like Arthur Jones saying, I don't know, you've probably heard this one, but it was like, if everybody stopped exercising right now on the planet, like our health of the planet would improve. Because people would just cease to be injured.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that says a lot about what people are doing, where they're spending their time, right? And it's probably true. Just think about all the overuse injuries that you're getting from like what people think is exercise, but are actually sports, like running, CrossFit, repeated jumping.
Until there were commercial gyms, how many physio and chiropractors were there? Probably not that many.
Right, but now it's almost like we've caused that industry to like even be necessary. Because people are injuring themselves in the pursuit of thinking they're making themselves healthier. Right? So it's like you can't really fault them because their intentions are good. They're just not educated enough.
And to make it clear, we're not eliminating injury. Like there are people who can get injured this way.
We're trying to significantly reduce the possibility.
Way less.
Right.
And you have someone who's accountable for you, right? Like if I'm having a bad day, I know I'm increasing the chances of someone I'm training to get injured. So I got to keep myself accountable because it is a business again, right?
Totally. Totally. I've even had to I've had clients with like lower back conditions and things want to do certain movements, and I've had to refuse them just because I will not put you at risk. I'm not going to be liable. I'm not going to put you at risk. Like I'm going to give you your money back, and I'm going to refuse to service you. Right, with respect. Right. So I don't know if you have to deal with that.
The risk. No, not so much. But I mean, some people see a good-looking person on Instagram or whatever do free weight. They do free weight something, so they want
push-ups.
So they think it's best for them. Or like you said, people sneaking off to the gym on days that you didn't prescribe them to. The negative crossover is a huge factor.
Negative crossover is huge, and I deal with it a lot.
And to define negative crossover, just exercising a body part that is maybe the weaker link before training intensely with us. Like someone doing arms 3 days before coming to do back. Right? The negative crossover being that they're not going to fatigue their back because their arms are still fatigued.
For me, the big one is like when people think they have to go do a lot of core and they're overweight, they're doing all of these core things, and then their lower back's compromised, and they want me to put them in a leg press or do burpees or something. It's like, okay, no. Your negative crossover is through the roof. Right?
And you can, the spot reduction, right? You can't, just doing crunches is going to make your...
There's no direct core work that's going to be like more beneficial for someone than mastering the big 5 movements. Right? I mean, I'm sure like we could argue like the isolation and especially the MedX machines I prescribed, you can't deny that the feel on those is like next level. And I haven't felt anything like those ever since I've used them. But for someone who's overweight, beginner, it's just not necessary.
And you do need to be advanced to use those isolation movements properly. It doesn't take... You want to take skill and even like mind muscle connection. Those should be the last things to add to the equation, right? Like you want it to be skillless and just effort as high as possible, right? Like where someone who's more advanced down the line, that's when you can start like your mind muscles through the roof, right? And you can get complicated with certain things, make them think about 10 things during the set, but the first thing is safety, and the second thing is intensity.
Totally. And that's why I love the big 5 movements, because like you said, there's no skill involved. Like I've taken a 91-year-old, put him through the big 5.
Yeah.
He can do all the movements.
Yeah.
There's no risk.
Yeah.
Like, well, minimal risk. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
Minimal.
But I mean, he's not doing anything he can't do. He's stimulating skeletal muscle, which is highly adaptive. So he's getting results from day 1, as opposed to we're going to spend 6 months learning a skill, and how much money and time you're wasting, and how much potential risk there is.
Yeah.
Jerking weights around, right?
You see it with 80-year-olds and 18-year-olds. The first time they're using the bench press with the 45-pound bar, is that it's like just dancing on the way up and down, right? That's just your motor units getting confused. But you take that same person with 45 pounds on a machine, all that skill associated to a bench press is gone, and now just effort is high, right?
So jumping from the free weight to a machine, and why it's beneficial for a client, and sort of the set intensifiers that we like to do.
I think one of my favorite I guess thought when you're using a machine, and cues I use for clients, you've heard me use it a lot, is to scan the body of what isn't flexing.
Right.
Because with free weight, there's a lot of co-contraction. So
there's a lot of peripheral work going on.
That's right. So if you're trying to grow the muscle in your bicep, and you're doing free weight bicep, you have to flex your calves, your hamstrings, your lower back, your glutes, your traps, your shoulders, your neck, and then your biceps are also flexing. The primary flexor, mover is your biceps, but you also have to now all those. The calories you're taking in to grow your muscles, some of it has to go to all those assisting muscles, right?
Totally.
So I like machines for that reason alone, is that I can sit on the bicep curl machine and relax my butt, relax my calves, relax my shoulders, and just try to make it so that it's one muscle. It may not be as impressive looking, and I wouldn't post it on Instagram because it doesn't look as impressive as curling a 50-pound dumbbell, but 50-pound dumbbell, I'm using my shoulders, my traps, all that stuff I was saying, and now I got to double my calories, right? And the more food, the more protein, the more that's a cost, right? That goes towards the cost that you could be doing training, right? Mm-hmm. And then the more protein you're taking, the more oxidative stress you're doing for your internal organs and all that. Like, it is for health. It's not just aesthetics. So the machine over the free weight, 9 times out of 10, I would say. Like, there is a time and a place for free weight, but maybe as a finisher when there's not much left in the muscle you're targeting,
you so significantly you can later
50% or less, 25%, and just slow them down and make them show what the true range of motion is of everything, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say is the biggest benefit of a machine, the proper machines, is that you can eliminate co-contraction or reduce co-contraction, and you have to cut the weight in half.
Definitely.
Right.
And then I love the machines for, like, if we're going with the philosophy that we believe in, which is like that one set, quality over quantity, you can milk that set to failure and beyond. Whereas with free weight, you're significantly limited in your ability to do that just because of risk.
Yeah.
Right? Especially by yourself. Right? But with a trainer, done properly, like the way we prescribe exercise, say you fail on positive, right? Well, now you can have someone pick it up with you, and you can now exhaust the negative, and then you can exhaust the partials, or you can exhaust the hold. So you're hitting all the different muscle fiber types within one movement, right? You just don't see people doing that. And that's why they don't necessarily understand how much quality you can actually put into one set, how far you can take a set.
And on the other side of the table, as the trainer, if I train someone free weight and I'm trying to do those, my chance of injury for me goes through the roof. Because if I'm trying to help someone do force negatives with 35-pound dumbbells in each hand, this bicep curl is just so easy to show. But if someone's hitting failure and I got to stand in front of them and lift it, if I do that 8 times a day with 8 different people, and then I'm also lifting up their dumbbells for the bend over rows, my body's taking a toll training somebody. But in the bicep curl machine, I hit failure with 65, 85 pounds on the bicep curl machine. That's not that intense for you to just come over and help me lift the machine up, right?
Right.
It's a lot less strain on the trainer. So
totally.
On the other side of the table, there's a benefit for both parties. You can get to that intensity level, but also I've been injured training somebody.
Yeah.
I'm more likely to get injured training someone than they are getting hurt.
Like a lower back as you're reaching or trying to pick up a weight awkwardly that they've dropped or failed on, right? So once you reach, a lot of people don't have a concept of this, or they have some concept of it, but they don't maybe understand it, is your muscle is actually weaker on the positive than it is on the negative. And then this is why we like machines so much, because we like to emphasize the negative to the point where we just do sets or some workouts that are just all negative.
Yeah.
Right?
And so every muscle.
And exactly.
Every muscle.
Exactly. So I am always posting on Instagram and preaching to my clients. I'll say this to them, like, we don't lift weights, we lower weights. Lowering weights builds muscle, right? Maybe you want to talk a little bit about your experience with negatives, why you like them, how you find them effective, and then maybe why we use machines for that.
Yeah.
As opposed to free weight, like you said, right?
I like negatives because it does give people a chance. There's a time and a place for your ego, and negatives would be a good time for an ego.
Yeah.
Because I can help you, and it's the safest time to be using heavy
Right.
weight. It's the heavy positive, and people build up that pressure, right? And they strain something. So if you're going to be doing a heavy weight, negatives are the safest way to use heavy weight. So that's what I'm encouraging people to, is that like, hey, today we're going to do 400 pounds on your leg press, but it's just going to be negatives. I'm going to help you. I'll try to pull as much as I can, or help you get in a position so that you can do the negatives for that reason. Also, like you said, the strength gain in the negative is very apparent. Yeah, it's on the negative is the strength and size. The positive, we also slow down on purpose for the cardio benefit and the lack of risk as well. I just want to throw that out. That negative does have a time and place, but it's that internal friction of the positive that's also important too.
Totally.
Right?
But that's why when we reach, like say on your bicep curl today, right, we reach positive failure at 6 reps. There's not another positive in there with perfect form. Even if I held a gun to your head, you're not getting one more, right? I picked that up for you. You would be able to lower that possibly 6 more times, controlled, before your muscles totally fatigued. But a lot of people just lift and they let it go. I'm done. Lift, let it go. I'm done. Right? They're losing out on so much potential. So when we say like, oh, we only need 1 or 2 sets per body part, like we're really exhausting every single phase of the muscle, right?
And we talk about it a lot, but the other benefit of the machines is that you can truly track that time under tension, not just time under load.
Right.
Because you can, with a dumbbell curl or let's use squat this time instead of a leg press, you're at the top of the rep of a squat, almost no muscles in your legs are contracted anymore nor needed to, right? All the force is straight down your spine. So that's another thing too, is that when you're doing a full proper set with negatives and machines and things like that, that one, it sounds like it's not as much, but my one set, I'm flexing longer than someone's 3 or 4 sets often, right? Because if you do 4 sets of 10, but each rep is a second and a half, right? Like that's not that impressive.
The total time of attention is negligible.
Maybe 50 seconds, maybe 60 seconds under the weight, but broken up like 4 times, right?
Yeah.
And momentum involved, and muscle wasn't under tension all the time. Where we can do a full, even 90 seconds is out, like 90 seconds under tension totally is going to outperform their 4 sets of 10.
Yeah.
Right. When it comes to time.
Right.
And a rep isn't a rep isn't a rep. Like especially when you're just doing it for performance reasons, like it's that rest between your 8th and 9th rep that made a difference. Where someone watching you being accountable is going to not only make you safe, but also you can track it better. You know that it was 9 of the same rep, right? It wasn't 6 good ones and then you kept pausing for your last 3 just because you wrote down the number 10. Right. So that's another huge important factor I find, is that again, if you wrote down a workout routine for somebody, that's entirely, you don't know what that routine looks like. Even though you wrote it down, it could be completely misconstrued.
Yeah, this is why I just don't do online training, even if someone asks. I just can't. I'm gonna give you a piece of paper. And it's gonna be totally it's just gonna be garbage. So that's why, like, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of online training and group classes and stuff are just sort of like malpractice.
It's short-term goals to be made for, like, financially, but not many people sign up for multiple months in a row with the same trainer.
Totally. Because
it gets complacent and it gets boring, gets repetitive, and they probably get injured.
Correct.
Right?
Exactly. I guess maybe as like a nice little finishing note is I don't think people really have a concept of the energy systems, like bioenergetics, and the energy systems the body kind of phases through during exercise, right? So we specifically train in the anaerobic energy system, which lasts anywhere between 10 seconds and 2 minutes. So having a stopwatch or our trainer to time you is sort of like, you can't even put like a value on it, right? To making sure your sets are being, positive and actually productive. So what do you find the ideal sets are for a male for time under tension? I know that this is a very vague question, but like a sweet spot for you. Like, what do you find your sets need to be lasting, about 40 seconds? So a lot of people think it's about reps. Like, oh, I did 10 reps. Okay, but was that 20-second set? Or was that 8 reps at 40 seconds to failure, right? And then negatives on top of that to extend, right? So what do you find the ideal time for, like, male versus female? Is that something you focus on a lot?
Yeah, I do. I haven't done a set that's under 90 seconds in a long time.
Right.
If it's someone...
With a client.
Yeah. Only just because by the time a minute comes by, like we were talking about before, that effort, in order for it to be high enough effort for that 1 minute, the weight does need to be substantial, and my chances of injuring them does go up.
Right.
So my sweet spot is somewhere around 90 seconds, whether they're male or female. Males don't tend to go over 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Some female sets, they might do 2.5 at most, and that would be a lower body, right, just to get that cardio benefit. But there's not many people am I doing. The shortest set I'll do is 40 seconds,
right,
typically. But that's only just because anything less time-wise, the weight would have to be so high that their injury goes high.
It goes up. And you're not even necessarily tapping into that. You might be at a diminishing return.
That's right. Yeah. Right. And or the co-contraction thing we talked about before. I find if I'm doing 40 seconds, if it's heavy enough for my bent over, or even just a machine row, Nautilus row, my feet are dug deep into the ground, my butt is flexing,
there's a lot of peripheral work going on.
All this stuff, right? Like it's hard. Like so, my sweet spot. Short answer is around 90 seconds.
For male and female.
Male or female, doesn't matter. Because a muscle is a muscle is a muscle.
Yep.
But it is also incorporated in what their goals are, right? Like,
for sure.
There are some advanced people that I'll do static holds are different. I mean, static holds I won't do 90 seconds. That's more like a minute.
I do 40, 60 seconds with those.
Yeah.
Right.
But like you said, it's a very broad question. I guess there's lots of answers that you could put.
For sure.
Sweet spot for reps would be around 90 seconds, which means somewhere around 12 reps if they're 4-second positive negatives, roughly.
Exactly.
Right?
Which makes sense. It's all about the time and the cadence, right? That's where the reps fall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not just 12 reps. It's how long is the set lasting? Am I in that sweet spot of productivity, right?
Yeah. And if someone has reserves about this style of training, they're a little afraid or skeptical of the weight,
increase the time.
I can do a 2.5 minute set as long as that last 15 seconds is just as hard as you would have tried if it was a 40-second set.
Right.
Like it's that last bit of effort that matters. Like it doesn't matter.
It's the last few reps.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Getting to failure, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. For me, when I get someone who's new, what I'll do for my free trial session is, let's say I start with a posture group with a pull down. I'll purposely make it a little lighter so that they can go over 2 minutes. And I'll ask them. So on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being super easy, 10 being if I held a gun to your head, you couldn't do another perfect one. How did that feel for difficulty or whatever, right? And they'll be like, oh, it was like a 7, right? And it's 2 minutes 30 seconds. They're at 12 reps or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So then I'll go do the next chest press movement or something, just after grip press. Then I'll bring them back to the pull down and say, okay, now this is what a set should feel like, and I make sure they feel under 2 minutes with perfect form, and then they go, oh god, that's a level 10. And I find the closer you get to 40 seconds, the higher the answer is 10, right? If you get to 40 seconds and then you pump a few negatives and whatnot in there, but that's the thing, with the beginner, it's definitely more around 2 minutes. I guess this is just maybe a training tip for anyone listening or training themselves, if they're older, scared of getting hurt. Fail closer to 2 minutes, and then when you get comfortable with it and you get stronger, more advanced, then as my females and males advance, I cut it down. As I get more comfortable with them and they're slower, and I don't have to tell them slow, like they've nailed it, like Tad or something. Yeah. Right? I can get them closer to 40, 60 seconds, and then hard negatives, static holds, done. Quality over quantity, next movement. Yeah. We've fried them.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, to a similar wrench into it, is that 90 seconds to 2 minutes would be the length of the set. Doesn't mean 90 seconds of reps. I might be doing someone 45 seconds of reps, but then a hold at the end, which tips it over into the 90-second mark. So
you're just pushing and extending it to that.
Or those couple last negatives pushed it to close to 90 seconds.
Totally.
But for reps, it doesn't need to always be 90. There's so many.
There's so many. The set itself is lasting this long. The tension is there. Yeah. Totally.
The intent is to ask them, let's aim for 90 seconds. If it's too light, we'll keep going a little bit. If it's too heavy, we'll cut it short around a minute.
For sure.
Right? But it's that effort. And it ties back to the first couple things we talked about, is that a lot of times people don't want to stick to this because it is
difficult,
hard. Yeah. But the benefits, I think, outweigh the cons. It fucking sucks. It's 30 minutes of hell is what it should be. Your muscles should think that you can't do it again. You almost died.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get the best results.
Yeah, I find like anybody who's wondering about like how much volume to do, how much sets, like when you focus on making your set, like I love that towel analogy. I don't know if it was you that used it, but like you have that wet towel that's a little damp, you're trying to just get every last drop out of it. If you treat your sets like that, you're never going to ask about volume again.
No.
You're going to be like,
No.
I'm done. Like I'm only doing one. I don't want to do another one.
It's inspiring, all the guys we follow and get quotes from, like Steve and Doug and Dorian and Mike Menser and Arthur Jones, all these guys, but Dorian Yates is probably the most modern of them that people would recognize.
Yeah, 6-time Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, people always ask, like, how could you train legs in less than an hour, let alone 20 minutes or whatever? And he said, I'll train anybody's legs, and there's no one has ever asked for more legs, right? No one, like 20 minutes, 19 minutes goes by, and he'll ask, do you want to do more? We can. Like, I've set aside an hour for this, and no one says yes.
Yeah.
So like, that's mission accomplished. Like,
yeah.
It shouldn't be how much can I do. It's how much do I need to do, and like that's what I want to do. I don't want to have to do more. Like, why would you want to do more? Right?
Totally.
Because for that adaptive response, right?
Like it's high intensity to failure.
Yeah.
If you're doing it, you won't want to do more.
Yeah, exactly.
It's impossible.
Yeah, it's the same. Like no one finishes a marathon and they say, "Do you want to run another marathon right now?" No, I did what I wanted to do. I got it done.
Yeah.
Right. There's no need for more. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
Like it works. So.
Yeah, and if you look at the people that do this and preach this, they're some of the mentally strongest people that you'll meet. Right. And it's not by accident.
Oh yeah, I feel it when I'm not getting trained enough. I can slip into self-doubt and depression and anxiety, all those things, and it's the mental side of it is almost as equal to the physical side of it.
Yeah,
like the benefits. I mean,
we should maybe do it like next time you come down. I know you got to get going, but we'll wrap this up. But we should almost do a video talking about like set intensifiers and their purposes, and maybe lace that over like some video examples.
Yeah,
but
do a full body workout
or something like that with a different set variable each time or something. But Steven, our mentor, the only time in my life when I had anxiety about training, besides like now when you come down, was when I would go there to prescribe, and I knew that Steven would be training us or would be training each other. It was the only time in my life up until that point, because I was just in the bodybuilding, like high volume,
chase
the pump, like, you know, meathead mentality, right? But yeah, when I went there and I was putting this much effort into things with the precision that we require clients to use, and we were forced to use, because like Steven said, if you're going to teach people to do this and make people do this, you have to do this yourself. Like, there's no excuses.
It was part of the hiring requirements.
Oh, he was weeding people out.
Yeah.
Right? And I loved it. I got all into it, but I did have anxiety before leg days and things. Right? And that's because of the intensity was just there. And yeah, I never asked for more. I remember laying on the floor and being like, this is awesome, but like, yeah, this is hard.
Most of the best things for you are hard.
Yeah. With everything. Nutrition.
Everything.
Business.
Relationships, like the hardest relationships are the best for you. Like nothing, things that are too easy, there's a reason why they're easy, right? That's where you take what you learn, what you do in here does tip into the rest of your week.
For sure.
Mental fortitude.
Definitely, man.
So.
Thanks for coming.
Cool.
All right, man.